You ever have one of those mornings that feels almost too peaceful? Like the world's holding its breath before it drops something heavy on your head. That was me, hauling feed across our family ranch, just outside of Pine Hollow. The birds were singing. The breeze was soft. And my son, Mason, was down in the pasture training his miniature horse, Scout, for the upcoming youth rodeo championships. Scout wasn't just any mini horse. He was rescued, trained from scratch by Mason after his mom passed away. That little horse gave my boy purpose, joy, and something to wake up for every morning. They were inseparable. If Scout sneezed, Mason brought him tissues. That kind of bond. I was halfway to the barn when I heard the shot. At first, I thought it was some careless hunter out on public land again. Happens sometimes. But then came the scream. Hi. Cracked. Mason. I dropped the bags and ran like hell. When I crested the hill, I saw him on his knees, clutching Scout's tiny, bloodied body. The horse's white coat was stained deep red. Mason was sobbing, shaking, his hands pressing into the little horse's neck like he could will him back to life. Standing nearby, looking more annoyed than guilty, was a man with a hunting rifle. And beside him, arms crossed like a villain straight out of a soap opera, was Cynthia Beckett, our self-appointed HOA enforcer. Cynthia wasn't on the board. Not officially. But her late husband used to be president. And ever since he passed, she acted like the neighborhood was her kingdom. Turns out, she had authorized a controlled hunt to deal with what she called an invasive hog problem. Only issue: she sent those armed strangers onto our private land. Land she had zero authority over. She even claimed it was part of a new HOA safety initiative. What initiative? One she made up in her head. Cynthia had always had it out for our ranch. Said it was an eyesore. Said our animals lowered property values. Truth is, she never liked us because I voted against her proposal to restrict livestock a year ago. Ever since, she's been looking for ways to get under our skin. That day, she crossed a line no one comes back from. Sheriff Adams arrived just minutes after the incident, and when he found out Cynthia had let armed men roam on a fenced, posted property, he wasn't amused. Especially after seeing Mason cradling Scout's body like it was his last tether to the world. We later found out that 2 of those hunters had criminal records. One even had a suspended hunting license. And the ammunition they used, banned in the county. This wasn't an accident. It was negligence, layered in arrogance, served with a side of entitlement. The sheriff handed Cynthia an official notice right there on the spot. She tried to play it off, waving around papers and HOA pamphlets, claiming we hadn't marked the fence properly, which was total garbage. Our pasture had 6-foot reinforced fencing, bright red no trespassing signs every 20 feet, and a gate with a padlock. That evening, the HOA held an emergency meeting. Cynthia waltzed in like she was being honored instead of investigated. She waved printouts and ranted about how our property was technically unfenced according to outdated HOA maps. Then she had the audacity to blame Mason, said a minor shouldn't be training exotic animals unsupervised. But the community had had enough. One by one, neighbors stood up. They told stories about Cynthia forging violation notices, threatening letters, even trying to fine one guy for hanging a birdhouse. The final blow came when Judge Peterson, a retired circuit court judge and now a board member, stood and read actual HOA bylaws, confirming Cynthia had zero power to authorize hunting on private land. Then Sheriff Adams played the Kikara body cam recording of Cynthia admitting she had to bend a few rules to keep the neighborhood safe. The board voted unanimously to suspend her, and she was served a court summons for criminal trespass, endangerment, and unauthorized use of HOA credentials. Cynthia turned red, stammered something about lawyers, and stormed out to a chorus of whispered insults. But the damage was done. Back at home, Mason didn't say much. He just sat on the porch swing, holding Scout's old blue ribbon. That night, he asked if we could plant a tree where Scout had fallen. I nodded. The next morning, under a gray sky, we planted a young oak by the fence. Neighbors came with flowers, small gifts, even a carved sign that read Scout's Meadow. It was quiet, respectful, healing. A few weeks later, the judge ruled Cynthia guilty on all counts. Her sentence: a heavy fine, 500 hours of community service at a local animal rescue, and a permanent ban from ever serving on an HOA board again. Most satisfying of all, she had to issue a public apology to Mason in court. Afterwards, as we walked out, Sheriff Adams handed Mason a small bag of wildflower seeds and said, "For Scout's Meadow, make it bloom." And it has. Every spring, the tree grows taller. Wildflowers dance around its base. And Mason, he started mentoring younger kids at the local 4-H club, teaching them how to care for animals with patience and heart. As for Cynthia, she sold her house within the month. No goodbye party. No sympathy. Just a moving van and silence. So let me ask you, was justice really served here? Or did Cynthia get off too easy? Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done if someone had taken your kid's best friend in the name of neighborhood safety? Because sometimes, the real danger isn't what walks on 4 legs. It's the ones with clipboards and no conscience.